Wasabi wallet. Unfairly private.
What's up, everyone? Ben with the BTC Sessions here, and this is your daily session.
Hodl that Bitcoin.
Before we dive into everything, of course, shout out to sponsors of the show, Ledn.io. This is where you can use your Bitcoin for a few different services now. So one of which is to stack more sats using their savings account where you earn Bitcoin on your Bitcoin paid in Bitcoin. So you can also check out their Bitcoin backed loans. This is where you use your Bitcoin as collateral to secure a Canadian or US dollar loan that sets in a dedicated account that can be audited 24/7. And finally, they just added this today. Within the last 24 hours, they added their B2X program, which essentially, if you deposit Bitcoin, it automatically entitles you for a $1 loan worth of Bitcoin for every dollar that you deposit. So essentially, you're getting 2-to-1 Bitcoin that remains in custody. It has the same. Margin calls as anything with the loans. So for full details, be sure to check that out. But if you're long Bitcoin and you want to speculate a little bit, then it's a way for you to potentially do that. And outside of that, if you're into Bitcoin, of course, privacy is important. Something that I use an awful lot on my phone, on my computer, is NordVPN. And what it does is it hides your IP address. It encrypts your browsing data and has a bunch of other added benefits, including unlocking geo-block content. So if something's not available where you are in your country, you can simply change your location and access it easily. So if you want to check them out, there's a link down below where you can get the service for $3 a month. And if you wanted to check out Ledn as well, if you opt to get one of the loans and you click the link down below, they'll actually give you a credit of an additional $50 worth of Bitcoin into your account. With that, let's dive into the news. So, coming as a surprise to basically nobody, Bitwise's Bitcoin ETF was not approved by the SEC. Now, they did indeed give an extensive reason why. In fact, the report, the explanation that they gave was a whopping 112 pages. Now, some of the notable things in there are just worries that the market is not mature yet. And funny thing is that they actually reference a report that Bitwise put together in order to legitimize Bitcoin, and they cited one of the facts that an estimated 95% of global Bitcoin volume is actually fake. Now, Bitwise had pointed to that to say, hey, if you're looking at all these illegitimate exchanges that like anybody can spin up anywhere, then of course they're going to be bad numbers. But if you look at the legitimate exchanges that are in well-regulated locales, then you're actually getting pretty consistent numbers across the board, and you don't have these big spreads where you're unsure of what the fair market value of the coin would be. But they didn't see it the same way as Bitwise, and which is the reason for the rejection. Now, Bitwise's reaction, they said, we look forward to continuing productively engaging with the SEC to resolve their remaining concerns and intend to refile as soon as appropriate. So, I mean, the ETF battle surges on. I think it's going to be a little while before we ever see something like this approved. I wouldn't be surprised if it took at least another couple of years, but hey, we will see. Moving on, a little bit more, I guess, a positive note on the institutional front here. Bakkt futures contracts, Bitcoin settled futures contracts, they launched a little while back and they kind of landed with a thud. Not much happened with them, really low volume on the first day. Well, it has surged 3,100% since the first day. Now that sounds pretty impressive, but let's put this in context here. While it has grown, and that is good, the contracts traded so far today, well, this was October 9th, yesterday rather, was 224 Bitcoin. So not huge. And again, let's look at globally what's happening. So volumes on leading exchanges often exceed 2.4 million Bitcoin moved every day. Yes, as opposed to the 224 that happen on Bakkt. At the same time, Bitcoin Network tends to push through $1 billion in value each day and way higher on especially active days. And large scale exchanges habitually hold over 100,000 Bitcoin themselves in their cold wallets. And just to give it even more context for scale, the Lightning Network, just the Lightning Network itself, holds 814 Bitcoin currently. So really pretty small fish when it comes to Bakkt, but it is gradually growing, and I'm sure over the years we'll see that pick up as interest grows. But yeah, it's more the fact that it launched, it is there, it exists, and it's ready for when people opt to use it. So I see that in general as a positive, but I wasn't super excited going into Bakkt anyways. Moving on here. CZ from Binance got a little bit of a smackdown on Twitter. So somebody had tweeted out, is Binance now accepting fiat on-ramp with Alipay and WeChat Pay? Exciting news. Would love for somebody to confirm. And he retweeted and said yes. To which Alipay said, no, you cannot. And they quoted a tweet of their own saying, several reports about Alipay being used for Bitcoin transactions. To reiterate, Alipay closely monitors over-the-counter transactions to identify irregular behavior and ensure compliance with relevant regulations. So they did indeed say that they are banning all Bitcoin-related transactions. Now, CZ went on to clarify that they are accepting Alipay as a way of funding your account via peer-to-peer transaction, but at the same time, obviously, Alipay is actively trying to block those types of transactions. Sometimes you may be able to sneak in there and pay with Alipay, and maybe they don't know. And I imagine that's just the case where that CZ is referring to. Essentially, they've also said if any transactions are identified as being related to Bitcoin or other virtual currencies, Alipay immediately stops the relevant payment services. Now, when CZ went in and actually clarified, he did say that, hey, we're accepting it, but we haven't specifically partnered with Alipay to do this. We just opened it up as a payment mechanism, which potentially Alipay could get better and better at blocking. So more or less, not really news, and it may be defunct eventually if Alipay really cracks down on this stuff. And one last thing I wanted to touch on here. So Skew and Crypto Garage, these are people that are trying to do derivatives contracts on the Bitcoin blockchain, on the main chain. So what are they trying to do? They executed a derivative contract on the Bitcoin blockchain, which started on, what were the dates here? It was a span of about 14 days from September 6th to September 20th. And so what happened is they had a derivatives contract. They had an oracle, a separate oracle that fed information based on the result of that contract, and then it paid out in Bitcoin on the blockchain. So why Bitcoin versus something like Ethereum, some people say? Well, they said with its hash rate making regularly new all-time highs this year, the Bitcoin blockchain is arguably the most secure distributed ledger globally. It is the ideal candidate for becoming the settlement ledger of global financial transactions. Also cited here is the inconsistent and at times unpredictable gas fees on Ethereum. Now, I've got a couple things to say about this. One, if you're talking about unpredictable fees, let's be real here. Bitcoin fees can vary quite a bit. Obviously, technologies are being built to try and cut down those fees and make the Bitcoin blockchain as efficient as possible so that the amount of information dedicated to the Bitcoin blockchain is minimal and compact and uses space as efficiently as possible. But I do question that reasoning. Secondly, do we want derivative contracts settled on the base layer of Bitcoin? I guess in a roundabout way, it doesn't matter, right? If somebody's willing to pay the base layer fee to get that done, then wonderful. But these people may find down the line that the fees that they thought they were going to be paying could differ quite a bit. I think Bitcoin will end up being kind of a base layer for like a global settlement currency, but people could peg to it as like a final arbiter of truth, perhaps. Now, the other thing I have to say to this is they refer to getting information from an off-chain oracle. And so one of the things about Bitcoin is that it is trustless because the asset itself is native to the Bitcoin blockchain and is purely digital. It's not pegging to anything off-chain. And so in this instance, there is a level of trust that's had in this oracle reporting on the state of this derivatives contract. So how sure can you be that the information you're getting is good, and once it's on the Bitcoin blockchain, if it's bad information, well, it's just there. You can't reverse what's on the Bitcoin blockchain, which they cited as attractive, but if you put bad information in, it's just going to be immutable bad information. So I do have questions about the viability of this. I also wonder why it wouldn't be done on a layer 2 or layer 3, something above Lightning Network perhaps, or on a layer 1.5, something like the Liquid Network where it's a side chain of Bitcoin. So I don't really have answers to those questions, and I imagine the people that are doing this proof of concept will eventually run into those questions themselves. So time will tell, but let me know what you think about people using main chain Bitcoin blockchain to settle stuff like this and to peg to things off of the Bitcoin blockchain. Is that a useful use of the Bitcoin blockchain? Again, it doesn't really matter what we think, because if somebody wants to pay the on-chain fee to get that transaction posted, that's their prerogative. But let me know what you think. Would you bother with this, or would you look for alternative solutions? And if so, what possible solutions do you see? So I'm going to wrap that up there, guys. Short one today. Thank you so much for watching. If you're new here, of course, hit like, subscribe, and share. Always hit share. It's great to have all you new people watching. If you want to help out the show, of course, you can hit up the sponsors, Ledn and Nord. Those links are down below. And also check out Wasabi Wallet for privacy and CoinJoin. There's a link to that down below as well. And finally, if you really like what you saw, you can hit me up with a Bitcoin Lightning Network tip at my tippin.me page. With that, I am out. Have a wonderful rest of the night, and I will see you next time for your daily session.